You're listening to the Beat Motel Zine podcast, and we need to warn you that we use words like shit, bollocks, scrotus, anarcho-syndicalist, and cunt, and we don't normally beat those words out, apart from the word cunt, because we're not total animals. Now, we know as well as you that your children can hear these words on any street in Britain, possibly any street anywhere in the world, but we also appreciate that you may not want to invite these words into your home if you have children or sensitive pets nearby whilst listening to this podcast. So listener discretion is advised. That being said, if your children aren't allergic to hearing words like fuck, shit, buttocks or hind penis, they might learn something from listening to this podcast, although probably not, because the quality of our educational content is quite poor. So there you go, fuckers, buckle in and let's get started. Always reminds me of scenes from The Thick of It with Malcolm Tucker. It says, I've got that on a t-shirt, I've got that on a tea towel at home. I'm not going to say what he actually says, because I would instantly have to download this and bleep out loads of bits.
You have given me an idea of what I should give you for Christmas, though, but I don't know if Izzy would appreciate it.
She'd probably try and wear it to school. Sorry, I just doxing my daughter's name there. Yeah, she wouldn't give a shit. Right, we have got loads to get through.
She wants a tea towel saying hind penis on it.
Who doesn't? Who wouldn't? And wearing a tea towel is the done thing at high schools these days. It really is.
Yeah, in my days, it was full clothes.
Full clothes? God, what kind of posh school did you go to? Actually wearing like trousers to hide your genitalia and stuff. Mind you, you grew up in a warmer country.
Yeah, we would allow the genitalia to sort of breathe free, but we had to undo the zip first.
See, we only did that. The only time you got your lad out was if you'd drawn little eyes on the end of it. Then it's when we played Shouting Snakes. Right, this Basic Hotel listeners, this is a music podcast, I promised you. I made up Shouting Snakes, but mutual friends of Sam and I. Do you know what I'm going to say? I can remember being at a gig in Brighton and seeing some of our friends playing Bollock Conkers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That looked painful.
It looked painful just trying to stretch things out further enough to bang them against someone else's cobblers. If you've never listened to Beat Motel before...
Must have been a warm night.
If you never listened, it was the salad tongs that everyone happened to have with them that surprised me. Right, listener, if you've never listened to Beat Motel before, I can't even pretend that that's not quite a normal start for the episode. But we've got a lot to get through today, so we ought to get on with it. We have a theme for these shows where it's me and Dr. Rage, and we loosely discuss a musical theme. Other shows include live reviews. So I went and saw Wolfheart at the weekend at the Dome in Tufnell Park, and it was super duper duper. So there's the previous episode to that will be a review. Somebody is trying to ring me and won't stop, so I'm going to message them. Sam, Phil.
I'm going to fill your mum. The schoolboys are coming out today. Today we're going to talk about middle eights. Middle eights are a part of songwriting, most common in a lot of songs. They're not necessary in every single song, but they tend to be. If you have a verse, chorus, then there's a middle eight, and it's sort of the bridge. It's what James Brown says when he says, "Take it to the bridge." It's the same thing. The bridge is the same thing.
Until we decided that this would be the theme for this week's episode, I honestly didn't understand what the name middle eight meant. It's the middle eight bars, isn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
that was a revelation.
Middle eight is less. The middle eight is. I mean, I don't know any of what you might actually call it, but it's just like it doesn't have to strictly be 8 bars. It could be 4 bars.
Middle 4. Well, you haven't seen the title for the episode yet, Sam.
It's just the bridge.
I've called it middle eight. Middle eight, take it up the bridge.
Take it up the bridge.
God. Right, let's carry on and take it up the bridge.
Take it up the bridge.
I'd like to assure listeners or people watching YouTube, we haven't been drinking. I mean,
No, I do. I'm a bit thick with cold though, or COVID. I think it's COVID.
I'm a bit sleep deprived. I woke up at 4:00 this morning, really excited to go and do some writing, which I promptly did, and then fell asleep about 9:00. So then had to rush to the studio. Right, let's have Riff of the Week from Mr. Sam. Here it is. So when I was preparing for this show, my wife was in the room next to me, and she said, "Is that Sam's choice?" That is very interesting music.
That is Peter Brötzmann with the track Machine Gun from the album Machine Gun, which is his second album from 1968. And I chose it because I was just sort of ambiently listening to some stuff on one of the digital media players. And I listened to that last time. I heard about Peter Brötzmann, I don't know how many years ago. But before that time, his early material was not available. He died a few years ago, maybe earlier this year. But his earlier material was not available, as with a lot of sort of more avant-garde, particularly European jazz artists. His earlier stuff was not available digitally until fairly recently on the streaming platforms. So I only had listened to it on crappy YouTube videos, and I discovered it someone had or the record company, whoever has a license to it, has finally uploaded it, and so I was really happy to hear it. I really like it. I think it's a really powerful piece. I remember seeing Peter Brötzmann at Cafe Oto in London a few times, and it was always the sheer power of the man. It's like that distortion is coming from him. It's not coming from just the things being distorted. He is blowing so powerfully, he is distorting the actual saxophone that he's playing. It's incredible.
It's wild, and I'm part of the noise music scene, but that was proper noise. That wasn't like me saying I'm part of the music scene and actually doing like neoclassical techno, which I have done. That was actually challenging.
I mean, you say that. I have, having rediscovered it in a way. I've actually now went out and sourced it out, and I listened to it. Then other stuff, I really just cannot sit down and listen to other sort of.
It's the fact you were saying that you were listening to it ambiently. Just like I've just got a picture of you, sitting in an easy chair with a pipe which you've not lit, just sort of idly kind of playing around with your teeth, and with a.
I go with the bubble ones, one that makes bubbles,
and just sort of lightly chewing the edge of a crumpet and just tapping your feet along to some terrible noises. So I thought, well, do you know what? I'm gonna try something new. I'm gonna try and do something that's along a theme with your Riff of the Week. So I thought, well, that's called Machine Gun, and I can kind of see it. I mean, it's not that straightforward, but if you want to be really arty, that's the sound of the repetitive sound of Machine Gun with the destruction of life.
I think that was the idea when they did it. Yeah,
I thought I'd go a bit more literal than that. So Kanonenfieber, I think they're German, and when I listened to this album, I can't remember what it's called, but there's a song Grabenkampf. So Kanonenfieber, I think it means big cannon in German, and they're a black metal band that everything's sort of themed around World War One, but not sketchy, because that's what you have to do with all black metal. You go, right, there's military iconography here. You squint at it, then you look it up on websites to check they're not sketchy, but they're not. But I just sourced. It's funny, when I first listened to this, I thought it had that real Machine Gun attack, which would fit with the theme of the album, but listening to it, I'm not so sure, but I ran out of time, so I'm going to play it anyway. there is so much about that appeals to me. Go on, you go. You can say it
No,
shit.
there was a weird like moment I had there when I was watching. We were watching Apocalypse Now the other night, and watching it with the sound off, and so I was really focusing on the imagery of Apocalypse Now, and it's so messy. He does such a good job. Coppola does such a good job at sort of like I think sort of trying to convey some messiness of war. And I was thinking, actually, I think Brötzmann does that. Whereas, whereas I thought the metal band, the metal is such a precise. I mean, that sort of metal is such a precise sort of art to it that it becomes sort of a clean version of war. It becomes this sort of like it becomes this sort of quite clear thing. Whereas sort of this free jazz aspect to it of Brötzmann sort of brings in this sort of real messiness of it.
I agree entirely, and for that bit, if it didn't have that like tremolo picking running, the sort of the whining guitar running through it, it'd actually be quite boring. But a lot of metal, that's kind of the joy and the torture of metal, especially extreme metal, is that it's so precise, but it has to be precise and still have character. I saw a band supporting Wolfheart on Sunday, and it was a really economical tour because the drummer of they're called Before the Dawn. Their drummer is the singer of Wolfheart and Before the Dawn have both got the same bassist, so they're clearly like saving seats. They had a really crappy tour bus. They're like worse than things I've toured in, bless them. But Rocky, who I was there with, we noticed that there are some tracks where it sounds like the drum's going out of tune. Out of time, just for a bit, and it's not. It's still correct, but I think some metal bands do that just to try and inject a bit of space and a bit of wideness into a track. Because if it is all just like dan 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 dan, dan and really staccato, it kind of becomes boring. I think.
I'm actually reading an academic paper at the moment about modern heavy metal production, about how crazy precise so much drum tracking is.
Say an academic paper.
Yeah.
Or could you do it? Explain it like not now. When you finished it, that would probably make quite a good episode. Do it. Explain like I'm 5.
It is called it's called brackets No Adventures in Recording Land: Engineering Conventions in Metal Music by Jan Peter Herbst and Mark Munet, in the journal Rock Music Studies, and it's really it's a bit dry with the paper, but it's really interesting. They did some really interesting reviews, and it was sort of like, and part of it is that modern is sort of making an argument that the production of modern music, modern metal, is an art in itself because it's so overblown, because it's so big and it's so, so much metal is so overblown and so big and so sort of precise and so on and so forth. It becomes sort of this art form in itself that goes from, like they have a guy who recorded Slayer's "God Hates Us All" 2001 album, and the guy was just going, yeah, basically you record them live as a band because they've been doing it for so long that they know what they're doing, and that's how they do it. And then you get modern bands, and they have a whole different way of songwriting. Like a lot of metal songwriters, they don't write so much like verse, chorus. They write through already. Their pre-production becomes them recording a song at home to a metal drum mini click track.
The only type of paper I like being dry is toilet paper before I use it. So I waited far too long to make that joke, didn't I? I'm with you though, because I watched a thing on YouTube with Red Fang in the studio, and it was weird. They've done like 5 albums, but they were saying, right, so every album we've done live and then patched in the other guitars, or done overdubs, which is the way as far as I know, everyone records. But apart from newer metal bands who do it to MIDI clicks. And they said, right, well, this time what we're doing is we're all piecing it together individually. And I was right, and I was thinking, why? Why would you do that? Why would you all go in by yourselves?
I think bands that do those multiple albums and they get so committed to a style, they need to find different ways of challenging themselves.
Yeah, no, yep. Thank you, Sam. This is why I love you.
And because I have one of my favorite Meshuggah albums is one it's quite a recent one, and it's one that they decided to record everything live,
Wow,
no overdubs. And for Meshuggah, it's like because I
that's
would expect
phenomenal.
Meshuggah to yeah, I would expect them to be one of those bands that
That should be in
records
like
everything individually.
it should be in the Guinness Book of Records or something. That kind of feat.
And so yeah, but they so within the paper he was saying that if you listen to God Hates Us All, the album, there are they do speed up and slow down, but it's like a natural sort of aspect to it. But he said that's not they now do that in albums, but they almost program it in.
You can tweak MIDI. Yeah, you can tweak the click to wander. I do it with. I learned very early on when you're programming drums, it naturally will have the same velocity for every single hit of every single thing. So you randomize it, not always by a lot, because otherwise it irks. It becomes difficult to listen to, especially with kind of techno and things like that. I need to move on, but I just want to say I've just realised why the name Meshuggah has been amusing me ever since I first learned of their existence, and I've not been able to put my figure on why. And I've just got it. The penny has just dropped because in my head I'm going sweets for my sweet, sugar for my sugar. Oh fucking hell! Let's move on. That's so lame. It's true that I did start giggling. Anyone watches this on YouTube, I did start giggling while Sam was talking. It's because in my head I was going sweets for my sweet, sugar,
Come on, Dad,
honey
let's
for my
move on.
sugar. Let's move on and let's go for the first middle eight. This is Sam's choice. Go on, let's bring the energy back. I go on, Sam. If anyone wouldn't know who that was, who was that?
That's the Johnson 7.
I think liking stuff like that, you can deny it when you're young, but anyone who's listening to this as a teenager or possibly even in their 30s, if you just think, oh, I fucking hate Motown, hate the Jackson 5, you will come round. That build up there is masterful.
Yeah,
It's so good. And then the release, you know the theory that all music is pressure and release.
yeah.
That release is fantastic.
And it's so well orchestrated between they change time signature, the bass starts sort of it breaks the whole song breaks down and they build it up beautifully and they're all these sort of vocals sort of juxtaposed to what the instrumentation is doing and then it's just that whole song is just a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece, that whole song.
Absolute
I love
joy.
it.
I think that as the first choice is the perfect example of what a middle eight should be. It's a little treat in the middle. It's just a wonderful thing that makes a song better and allows it to
Yeah,
be
and
more than 2 minutes
frankly, it
long.
was the only one. It was the only one that immediately leapt out to me as being like, uh, but then I saw, yeah, it was the only one that immediately leapt out to me. The other ones have been a bit of hard work.
I found it quite challenging to find middle eights for this because a lot of the ones that I thought were middle eights, when I actually started recording them, I realised they were just solos. And it's a different thing. We've done solos. We're not repetitive
Yeah.
yet. We will be when we run out of ideas.
Well, I
Right.
mean, that's the second time I've chosen "I Want You Back." So, well,
Interesting.
I think I've done all the different parts of it. So maybe I'll have to move on to something else.
It's like almost doo-wop, some of that bit in the middle, isn't it? It's all
Oh, yeah.
voices, and it's got to be so intricate. Right, I'm just being completely on the nose with my first choice. It could not be more obvious.
But I think I'll take him to the bridge. 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 All right, if I take him, Joe. Take him to the bridge. There one time. Bam! Ha. Then I go back.
Who was that then?
That was a guy called James Brown who works in a print shop in Ipswich. I know so many people called James Brown. I was working at an exhibition in Germany once, and this guy came up, and he's actually the MD of a really, really big company. And I was there representing one of my clients. And he came up, and he had James Brown on his little name tag. And I said, "Hi, I'm Andrew." And he said, "I'm James Brown." And I just want to go, "No, you're not. You're not. You're not James Brown. You are not James Brown. You are a white man from Kent." Oh, shit.
Cultural appropriation.
There's possibly someone might be able to piece together who I'm talking about if they listen to this. For which I apologize.
He's not from Kent. He's from Surrey.
Surrey. Oh, they're all the fucking same, all the home county. Are they home counties or are they southern counties?
I don't know.
What do you care? You
I
live
don't
in
live
another
in
world.
the country anymore. I don't want to know your geography.
Fuck you and your geography. Yeah, so I can't credit that in the show notes as being any one particular song because it's from a YouTube performance, and the James Brown performance is just sort of meandering around, using parts of things that were singles as motifs during a live performance. So it's just James Brown, and I'll put the YouTube link up there.
Well, I actually listened to that one as well. There was quite late on in the Sex Machine version on the album. It's a long track. How it's so long, I don't know. I find it, frankly, actually gets quite boring. But let's move on from that comment quickly. And he does this take it to the bridge thing. He goes, take it to London Bridge, take it to Detroit Bridge. And they go, just get to the fucking bridge, man.
That would be like the worst Uber driver ever. Take it to the bridge. Let's take it to London Bridge. We're in fucking Washington, you twat. Oh, I nearly swore then. I did well.
Nearly swore. Twat doesn't count.
Nah, twat. I was in a meeting. I must stop talking about work, but I was in a meeting once, and somebody came in and they had one of those giant mugs, like the Sports Direct mugs. I don't, you know, things I mean. And it said twat. And it's like, why does your mug say that? And he said, "What?" And he showed me. It said "Technician with Adhesives Training." I was like, But yeah, so the other thing that I learned far too late about James Brown is that they're genuine instructions in live performances. Take it to the bridge. That is where it is all from. And he would fine people for making mistakes on stage. Yeah. So that whole kind of that's 10 or whatever. That's people getting a fine for making a minor mistake, which I find fascinating because growing up in the 80s and 70s and 80s, James Brown was is that pig bag guy or whatever. We didn't really get the full majesty of him like when he was really good. So it sort of took a while to realise that his genius is that he was a proper band leader, almost like in a Glenn Miller kind of type way, which I'm fascinated by. I'd like to actually. I don't really want to read more about him because when he came on stage and I saw him supporting Red Hot Chili Peppers, his hype man was like, "You want to see him come out and do his thing and do the thing he's known for?" And I was like, he's only just got out of prison for doing that. Let's move swiftly on to your next choice. I'm just going to press play. Hey.
There isn't any so free. Coca-Cola advertising and cocaine, strolling down the Broadway in the rain. Neon lights are crazy. I read it in the paper. They're crazy. Yes, it's your life. Maybe so in the White House. I know all over Berlin. They do it for years. And in Manhattan, coming through the.
Considering that's such a nice little bass bit there, the earlier bit of bass hits a bum note. It's like I'm covering both ends of the scale, complete ineptitude and adventure.
Bless Paul Simonon. He does seem to.
That's the Clash, by the way.
The Clash with Coca-Cola. Classic middle eight. Lovely bit of orchestration. I did it because a friend of me sent me a picture of Mick Jones, the guitarist and songwriter of the Clash, looking a bit worse for wear recently.
Oh, he's getting on, bless him.
He's in his late 60s. He looks worse than my mum in her late 70s.
Oh shit, really? Okay.
And my mum looks good, by the way, for late 70s.
Hello, Catherine. Do you think she listens?
But yeah, he does not look. He looks like he's let's say he's without a solid roof over his head in this picture, I would say. And I wanted to remember him not as that, but as one of my favorite songwriters ever. And I love his stuff all his stuff in the Clash, and a lot of his stuff in BAD, and the other stuff should not really be mentioned that much. But he was an amazing songwriter who he was like one of those geniuses who could mix pop songwriting with avant-garde textuality, like David Bowie in the same sort of is in the same sort of league.
Much to the consternation of a lot of people I know. I don't really know much about the Clash, but my understanding is that Joe Strummer had some chops before they started. He kind of knew what he was doing. But Paul Simonon and who's the guy you just mentioned?
Mick Jones.
Mick Jones. They kind of learned as they went, and I think some of the best bands go on.
Other way around. Joe Strummer was never a good musician.
He had experience, is what I mean.
He had experience. Mick Jones was one of those bedroom guys, the guys who just plays along to records in his bedroom endlessly. But there's a story that goes that sorry.
I go on. Expectorate.
There's a story that's like blocked. It's horrible. There's a story that goes that they were in the practice room one day and Mick Jones drew a line on the floor. I think it was Mick Jones drew a line on the floor and said, "Look, behind this line are the artists," and it was him and Top Ahead and the drummer.
Yeah, no, he definitely was a real musician.
Yeah, the Clash couldn't have done. Sorry, the Clash couldn't have done what they did without Top Ahead. And he said, and they said, so they're the artists, and then you have the fashionistas of Joe Strummer. They weren't always the nicest to each other, but there was, Mick Jones is no, he didn't learn as he went. He was the one who was a good musician to begin with. Paul Simonon definitely learned. I don't think he ever learned that much. I'm being mean about him. He does have some great bass lines. I don't know who wrote them though.
So I'm really rubbish at this. Paul Simonon, I thought, was the guitarist.
No, Paul Simonon is the bassist.
Ah, right. So I've been thinking about someone else entirely. There was a picture of the bassist, and when I had my record shop with Ricky from Red Flag, he had a photograph that he had printed out, and we had up in the shop, and it was him and the bassist and Ricky. But the bassist. Just tell me his name. Just put me out of my misery. Paul Simonon.
Yeah.
Right. So he was there, and Ricky had his arm around him like this, and he was really proud of this picture. And I just got used to it being there. And I looked at it one day, and Ricky's hand was filthy, like in Oliver, the orphans are all sort of grubby. It was like that. Like I had like coal dust, and like, Ricky, why were you so fucking filthy there? And he just went, I don't remember. I'm just a bit grubby sometimes. Wow, cool picture though. Really cool.
I shook Mick Jones's hands.
Was it grubby?
Well, after taking a piss, I shook his hands. Whilst he was going for a piss in the toilets of Brixton Academy after seeing Sex Pistols.
Well, he was still in the act.
He went into the audience to watch the Sex Pistols at Brixton Academy, and I shook his hands. I shook his hands in the toilet as I went out, and frankly, the Brixton Academy toilet's not the nicest. So sorry, Mick.
I clipped something from a previous episode where you talked about toilets, and it went live on Instagram today. Anyone listening to this, we post clips on Instagram, and we get quite a lot of views on TikTok. Like every clip I put up gets around 300 views. God knows who they are.
Isn't that because of the way the algorithm works there? Every video has to have at least some views.
Oh God, that's put a dent in me pride there.
Shouldn't you know this shit? You're the internet geek.
No, I do SEO. I'm bollocks to all that social shit. Right, I'm going to play the middle eight that got me really excited about actually playing in a band. Oh shit, where is it? Oh, bollocks, I haven't uploaded it.
Oh, twat.
What am I doing? Hang on. Kanonenfieber. Clash. Pad for a minute.
Andrew has is having a senior moment and doesn't seem to be able to locate his own work and might be cutting the podcast short by 30 seconds. At the moment, he is.
Got it.
staring.
Here
Oh,
we go.
there we go.
That's the band.
That's not how I remember Lust for Life going.
Oh my god! So that's the band that fucked up my life. That's the band I heard and went, do you know what? That bit of bass, I reckon I could play like that. I now realise, of course, that the skill of that bass playing isn't shoving loads of notes in. It's the slightly sort of late timing that gives it the funk. But you're bloody right. That is Lust for Life, isn't it? Oh, where's Sam's voice gone?
Yeah. Hello.
That is
at
Lust
least
for
it's
Life.
not Bon Jovi.
Oh, I was going to say that. Yeah, that's not as bad as Simon from my band destroying late era replacements by telling me it sounds like Bon Jovi, because he's right.
Yeah. Well, that early era of Iggy Pop is a fine thing to try and And what's the comment? I can't remember who said it, but genius is steel.
So I didn't say who it is. That's the Charlatans, with the only one I know.
Okay.
The other aspect of that is it was kind of self-recorded and stuff. But I mentioned Charlatans on the books episode, so I won't go on too long. But that I just, it's so simple, that middle eight. I like it. What's he doing now? Sam's wandering off. You can take the laptop with you, Sam. Show us around your. For anyone who's not watching on YouTube, Sam is in a velvet wall-lined pod, and there's various tubes coming out of various parts of his body. And occasionally he grimaces, and little green lumps shoot up a vacuum tube that's behind him. Right, let's move on. Let's move on to your next choice. I've got to be really careful now because I've knocked them out of order. So your next choice. When I was clipping this, I switch off. I've got a system, as you know, that I've got speakers in almost every room of the house, and I have to switch them all off when I'm preparing clips for this because of not just your choices, not just because of mine as well. And when I was clipping this one, I switched on the speaker for the room I knew my wife was in because I thought she might enjoy this. Here's Sam's next choice.
Can kiss my ass goodbye. Feel good, are you satisfied? Do you feel like suicide?
It always makes me think, those set of lyrics from.
Go on.
It always makes me think like what Brian May must have felt, because Brian May comes across as such a gentle soul and such a nice boy. That you have Freddie Mercury, who's just so angry.
Angry?
Yeah, he's literally wanting to murder the ex-manager of Queen.
Oh shit! Is that what it's about?
Yeah, it's called Death on Two Legs, and every single line is a barbed line.
Wow.
To the I think either the present or the first or former Queen manager. Every line is really nasty. And I just always think, what would Brian May? What did Brian May feel? He was just sort of cowering in the corner as Freddie Mercury was going, "I just want to hang the man."
It's I don't know why I find it so weird thinking of Freddie Mercury as being really angry. It's not one of the sort of adjectives. It's not an adjective, is it? It's not one of the descriptors that I would necessarily think of. But that does put a different angle on it. yeah, interesting middle eight. Again, the vocals. I'm not a huge Queen fan, but just the craft,
Yeah.
the art of the vocal performances and the layering is so distinct. So what album's that? Is that from Night at the Opera?
It's not. It's Night at the Opera. First
Night at
track,
the Opera.
opening track.
Is that when they were still putting no synthesizers were used on this record on the back of their albums?
Yeah, but that, you know what, they didn't do that because they were anti-synth. They did that because they kept getting accused of using synths.
No, I think that's fine. It's kind of cool because there's noises in there that there's like a little that very much sounds like a synth noise, and there's other ways to, you know, envelope filters and pedals and stuff.
Well, you know, they picked up that thing of what the Beatles became so lauded for and George Martin became so lauded for in their approach to the studio. They picked up the mantle of using the studio as a instrument in itself.
Really cool studio. It's in Wales, isn't it? There's a documentary about. Is it Rockfield?
Oh, yeah.
There's a
very good documentary about the making of that album.
Right, we need to move on. God, I'd love these episodes to be hours long, but I'm just now into middle eights. I just I stopped trying to intellectualize it, and then I just thought, do you know what? After I'd record this one, I thought, do you know what? Britpop owes a fuckload to this little middle eight here. Interesting thing going on with Blur at the moment, especially on BBC Six Music. They're completely rewriting the history of Blur and taking them out of being the cheeky chappy Cockney thing, in so much as they're doing Artists of the Year at the moment on Six Music, and Blur is one of them. And Stuart McConey, really, really interestedly, and I think he's fully aware. So Stuart McConey was a journalist for The Enemy for years around that time, and he's also written some quite good books. I quite like his style of writing. But he was saying, you know, Blur were wrongly pigeonholed as being cheeky Cockney chappies at the time, and he sort of said
market themselves as that, though, didn't they?
Not really.
It's quite hard to get around that with the Park Live video.
I dropped me ring there just to drop in another dude on top. I think that's
Don't drop your ring on.
I think that's what they accidentally got. That's what they accidentally achieved. But I've mentioned to you before what they were going for was skinhead. Kind of like skinhead crossed with late 60s skinhead. That's exactly what they were trying to do.
Slade.
Well, yeah, more skinhead than that. More like, I don't think of Slade as skinheads.
Slade, early Slade, when they were still trying to make it, they had and they all think it was a mistake, but the manager convinced them to try and cash in on the skinhead market.
Oh yeah, because I'm sure there's a fuckload of money there. Blur tried it, but the problem is you got Damon Albarn who was doing it like a sixth former in a drama class. I do like Blur. I say before I now go ahead and rip them to pieces. He was doing it like a sixth former in a drama class. You had Graham Coxon, who looked like he was just waiting for a bus and was a bit confused about what was going on entirely.
The bus never came, did it?
The bus never. Coxon's bus never. Oh God, I love Graham Coxon though.
I don't know why.
Especially now he's straight. His YouTube videos they're bloody great. He just seems like a wonderful man. Anyway, so you had him looking all confused. You got Labour councillor Dave Rowntree, who just generally looked a bit confused, and then Tory making cheesemaker Alex James. It just
Tory making cheese.
Tory making cheese, Alex James. It just sort of never quite fitted. But I'm going to play you the song that made me kind of even start talking about him in the first place. Oh, crap, I accidentally clicked it again. What a lovely start, though. Just that ring. Yeah, sorry, I'm recording. Oh no, what have I done? No, it's all right.
What have you done?
Oh, I've unplugged me. Hang on, Sam. I've unplugged me headphones. Oh God, that's better.
We are. If we're anything, we are professional.
Sorry, somebody walked in then, and I got distracted. I missed the end of it. So, do you know who that was? You looked like
the Kinks.
It was the Kinks. Yeah, that's
They're distinct. They're very distinct, and Blur took a lot of. It's like they studied their chord changes very closely. I'd say
that album. It's from Arthur, the Rise and Fall of the British Empire, and that song Shangri-La. It then goes on to like quite a cheesy Shangri-La, la 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 la. But it was an album written for an ITV series that never happened about a family that moved to Australia. So it's an amazing. I think it's an incredible album. But that and Village Green Preservation Society, which is the other brilliant album from that period, didn't chart, which is just amazing considering how influential they are. They did nothing at the time, absolutely nothing.
I feel like the Kinks are given a bit of a bum rap sometimes of like being only. What era was this? Was this 70s?
68? No, it's definitely 60s.
Sometimes they're given a bit of a. I feel like they're given a bit of a bum rap because they're sort of known outside. You're either like really into the Kinks or you basically know a handful of songs, and they always come. They're always sort of presented as like a secondary Cockney version of the Beatles or something for a lot of it. And where that or they have like some people claim they invented heavy metal.
I'm so fucking sick of the who invented heavy thing. It's going to be, if you want to get into that bun fight, I'm going to say it's someone playing blues in the 20s. But no, the Kinks were
I liked Rob Halford from Judas Priest's sort of line, which was Judas Priest were the first heavy metal band because Tony Iommi of Black Sabbath keeps saying, "No, we're just a hard rock band."
Okay, so he just wasn't claiming it.
So Rob Halford's like, "Okay, I'll take that then. Fuck you."
The Kinks are such a journey band, as in they're a part of a lot of people's journey through music. So. First Blur album is just an indie pop album. The second Blur album, Damon Albarn came back and alarmed us at the time by going on the evening session with Steve Lurpak. And
Steve Lurpak, the guy
he's just retired, you know. He's off Six Music now. He's gone down to 1 day a week, and he was asked why. He's like, I'm in my 60s. I'm tired.
It's Steve Lurpak of the Lurpak family who make butter.
Yeah, that's him.
He's incredible butter.
And Damon Albarn was like, we're done with all that. Now listen to this. And was playing the Kinks. And we were like, what the hell is this? And then heard the Kinks. And those two albums I need to listen to again. I think they're brilliant. And from that, I wanted something a little bit more subversive. So got into Small Faces. And Small Faces, another band I need to listen to again. I listened to them too much as a teenager, but they're possibly one of those bands that's good as a best of album rather than a whole album. But I bought a
Small Faces album, and yeah, it didn't really click. And that could have been the mastering from the transition from vinyl to CD, and therefore the CD mastering just did not do justice to that album. But yeah, to me, the Kinks, I've never really listened past the best of albums, and I've really enjoyed everything I've heard of theirs. So maybe I should actually sit down and listen to more Kinks.
Yeah, the Kinks are the Village Green Preservation Society is a proper album start to finish. Everything's in the right place. And the same with Arthur and the Rise and Decline of the British Empire. Everything's in the right place. And I'm going to leave it at that because otherwise I'll just keep on talking. So without unplugging myself, I'm going to play your next choice, which is... Oh, your final choice. It's this one. I was surprised how much I liked that. Who was that, Sam?
Oh, well, I used to. Sorry, I'll actually introduce this one. That was "Sweating Bullets" by Megadeth, um, and it is, I mean, just some of the most cringy lyrics. But I loved.
There's lyrics there.
Oh no, no, not in that. But the whole song, I was obsessed with the song. You know, when I was 10, my older brother brought back home. He started to get into like punk rock and heavy metal, and he brought back home "Countdown to Extinction," which is what this album's from, and I became obsessed with this track, "Sweating Bullets," and the opening lyrics or something like "Hello, me, it's the real me." Oh God, what is it? It's so.
Sounds
But
wonderful.
uh,
I was surprised how young Dave Mustaine was when I clipped that from the video. He looks about 15 years old. I'm just used to
it's
seeing
probably
him now.
"Hello, me, meet the real me and my misfits way of life. A dark black past is my most valued possession. Hindsight is always 2020, but looking back, it's still a bit fuzzy. Speak of mutually assured destruction. Nice story, tell it to Reader's Digest." The rhyming scheme goes off in the last.
We just gave
Uh,
up. God, rhyming's difficult.
but
Nuts to that.
the riff is also, it's like it's fascinating because for like a guy who was Mustaine is sort of known. There was an interesting thing recently I saw in the metal press, which was he of Robert Fripp, he of King Crimson, said that when he was doing his and Toya's lunch stuff, they were asking like,
Gotcha.
"What did you get out of it?" And he said, "Well, actually, he sort of discovered some music he'd never listened to before, and one of that was Megadeth."
Wow, really?
And he said he thinks that they have a similar way of thinking about music. They're completely different musicians, obviously, and they write completely different music. But he thinks that Mustaine sort of works in patterns in the same way that he works in patterns. And one of the reasons I love that riff was when I was learning to play, you know, when you're learning to play as a teenager, you go to those songs you really like. And so I went to that song and learned it. And the opening riff is really just ridiculously sort of, it's all about tight timing between the band. Sorry. And I'm getting emotional. I'm not. I'm just struggling.
Getting
I'm
emotional about
struggling to
Megadeth.
breathe. But that riff is like it's a chromatic pattern centered around what is it? G, G power chord, and it's a chromatic riff, uh, meaning that it doesn't really adhere to a scale, and a lot of metal doesn't really adhere to a scale. It's sort of based loosely around a minor scale, but loosely, you know.
I'm going to
And
look that. I'm going to look that. Sorry, go on.
and and it's just a really It was a really pleasing riff to play after like this opening riff, which is just stabs a whole. Apart from the chorus, the verse riff is just stabs. It's not. There's nothing to it.
I like the way
But
the
it's also interesting that a guy who is known so much for his riffage, Dave Mustaine, chose to just go one of their biggest singles ever. Just sort of went, no, I'm just going to strip everything away.
I like it. I like the way it's tilting forward all the time. I like riffs that, if they were a person, they're a person leaning forward slightly too far, so that they're being pulled along just by gravity, and that's probably why I've had the riff of, is it "Walk" by Pantera that I hum meaninglessly, much to the irritants of many people, because it's the
No,
same thing. It's that same kind of momentum in the riff.
that's a really good point because going back to sort of those regular rhythms is sort of like, yeah, the start of the riff is this sort of it keeps catching itself, it keeps anticipating itself,
Mm.
and then at the end of the riff they have this drum fill that sort of puts it back in the right place, and they start again. That's really. I didn't think about the timing of it at all. I think you're right, completely spot on that entry.
But Blow Me Down, I heard a Megadeth song I liked. We used to just rip the piss out of friends who liked Megadeth. And
I mean, his voice is the Billy Corgan of the metal world.
It's Billy Corgan, the Billy Corgan of the metal world.
Slashing Pumpkins is not metal.
Not really. Gish and stuff was like Seaver or Git. No. Yeah. Right. So I am going to go on for my last choice, and sometimes a middle eight can get me into a band, and this middle eight absolutely did that. Oh, that hurt! Cutting that off there.
What's that? Trash can.
It's the Refused.
I know.
The Refused, new noise from the shape of punk to come. A chimerical bombination in 12 bursts is the full title of that album. And when I first heard that, somebody played it to me. I was really good friends. Do you remember Hardcore Punker or Henry from Punk News? It was him.
Yeah.
I was around at his house, and he said, "Listen to this." He said, "When the crowd noise comes in, it's in tune," and it is, which that is so joyous. That got me into Refused, and at about the same time, I was sent a copy of the album by Burning Heart, the label they're on, and I reviewed it in, I'm going to say 2005, 2006. And the whole review in Beat Motel, when it was a paper zine, was me going, "This is it. Punks of old. This is new. This is fantastic. We've been waiting for something like this. Listen to the production. Listen to the way it mixes electronica." And within like days, because that's how slow communication was then, within days of the album coming out, I got an email from someone saying, "You do know," I think it might be in the record label, saying, "You do know that album came out in 1998 and that's a reissue we sent you." And I was like, "Oh God, more proof I have no fucking business talking about music with any authority at all."
Well, I mean, it becomes hyper real, I guess. What is the real? What is real, Andrew? Does it? What is reality anymore?
I tell you what is real. We've had some letters, and I'm using letters in the not actually pieces of paper, because who do that? Do you want to hear our letters? The first letter. This is it's an Instagram comment, really, but the guys from the Rock Geeks podcast commented on the little clipping that I put up of the live the live albums thing, and you need to read this with the exclamation mark that it's got at the end in mind. It just says "Life after death," and if you want blood. So if you want blood, I know is AC/DC, but what's life after death?
I know.
I mean, so that's a very short letter, but I just liked the exclamation mark on it. Just like, fuck's sake, what are you doing? Why didn't you mention these?
Yeah, Life After Death album. Come on, Notorious B.I.G.
Oh, really? What do I know?
Oh, hold on. There must be a different one.
Okay, well, I'm gonna leave you to look for that. We've had another. This was actually an email, and again, I think.
Life After Death is a live album by English heavy metal band Iron Maiden.
Oh, okay, that sounds more realistic than Notorious B.I.G.
And I don't know, like, I guess the point I would reply to that is that we pursued live albums by bands that we sort of know intimately, whereas Iron Maiden and I love AC/DC, but I really can't be bothered with I love the version of it that I heard as a kid. I can't be bothered with it as a 40-year-old, frankly. But I love AC. I will always love AC/DC because there's a CD shop in near where we lived in Portugal when I was a kid, and I would go into the CD shop, and the first thing they would have is for those was the picture. It was the AC/DC. I think it was the "For Those About to Rock We Salute You" cover, which has got a cannon on it. And I just remember looking at it, going, "Wow, this is amazing! What is this band? This just like." And I looked through all the I'd look for through all the stuff, but I'd always go back to the AC/DC album covers. And I found myself doing that when I was a teenager with all the Funkadelic and Parliament album covers. I
Oh,
kept
but
going back
they're
to them.
incredible, aren't they?
Yeah, the idiot in me never bought one. Never was like, oh, because I didn't know what, because you couldn't discover stuff just easily on the internet back then. So I didn't just take the bet and dive into Parliament and Funkadelic. And my life would have been very different if I had.
Well, you also weren't alive in the 70s when they were easily available.
Yeah.
Right. So the next letter, I think I kind of know who this is from, and I'm not gonna reveal. I'm just gonna read it. So this is real. This is not AI. This is actually from someone who listens to the podcast. Dearest Beat Motel hosts and Rodica. Oh God, I can't believe he's actually being mentioned. Anyone who hasn't listened before, Rodicas are AI super fan. Right, so dearest Beat Motel host and Rodica, I'd just like to say that man does not represent us. Long-time listener, first-time emailer here. I think you missed a rich vein of excellent live albums lately. I'm, of course, speaking about the twisted sister of the live album, the concert movie. Ooh.
Oh.
Like with live albums, there are, of course, concert movies and concert movies. Two immediately spring to mind: Pink Floyd's Live at Pompeii and Talking Heads Stop Making Sense. I'm just going to say quickly, there is an episode about Live at Pompeii way back in our history. The first, yes, obvious, and also fodder for divorced dad crowd. What a great description of Pink Floyd. Oh dear. The first, yes, and obviously also fodder for the divorced dad crowd, but it is the band at the pinnacle of their power. That said, the less said about Mademoiselle Nobbs, the better. I had to think about that. Mademoiselle Nobbs is a dog that barks on the Live at Pompeii album, I think, or there's a song about Mademoiselle Nobbs. It's one of those weird Pink Floyd things they did where there was just a song that was just odd. They go on. Stop Making Sense recently played at King Street Cinema. I went twice. Once to watch it and once to dance. I got hemmed in the first night. I was the only one dancing at the back. Oddly, the second night, only folks applauded after each song. Oddly, the second night only, folks applauded after each. I should really read these before trying to read them out. Oddly, the second night only, folks applauded after each song. I felt the urge myself, presented with the band in front of me, as if it was a reflex. It was definitely a bit weird. 20-foot tall David Byrne in his big business suit was an absolute autistic delight, though. Full body stimming in the aisle. What's body stimming? Sam is, like, anyone who's not watching on YouTube, Sam's proper laughing. What are you laughing at?
Autistic delight.
Well, it's still a lovely description. Anyway, keep up the work. I like that. That's an old Sean Keaveney thing who was on Six Music. People used to text in and finish off, keep up the work. Not the good work, just the work. Anyway, keep up the work, and do call if you ever need to discuss the career of Canadian melancholic Godspeed You Black Emperor at length. Many thanks, Madame Nobbs, the mad tran of old Ipswich Town. And the mad tran. I've never heard them describe themselves that way, but they're a wonderful person. Really cool. So thanks very much for that, Madame Nobbs. Right, going to have to move on very quickly to that stupid fucker Rodica's emailed in.
Our fantasy, our hyper-real fan.
Oh, he sent a selfie that I need to send you very quickly because you need to see the selfie he sent. Let me just quickly see. I'm going to send it to you on WhatsApp. You're okay? Here is the picture he has sent us. Would you like to describe that picture for us, Sam?
Rodica is in a barber's. Not barbers. He's a dentist.
They used to be the same thing.
He's in a dentist office, surgery, and dentist chair, wearing a leather jacket and mauve jeans. And he's got a lot of armbands on. Why does he have so many armbands? His beard is looking resplendent, but it's AI, so fuck you. And what's
fuck you, AI beard? That's a really specific insult.
And he's got his sunglasses on, and I have to say, people who wear sunglasses on inside who don't have an eye condition can fuck themselves. And he's holding one of those little mirrors dentists use to look in your teeth, But let's hope that his teeth are all pulled out and he can never enjoy life again.
Cool, harsh. When I saw that picture, I thought surely the last thing I'd do at the dentist would actually be to handle any of the instruments. I went for root canal once, and the dentist said, "Would you like me to show you the tools I'm going to use?" And I was like, "Fuck no." I'm going to shut my eyes and think of something else entirely. Right.
No,
So
I read a book recently where there had to be quite a violent sort of. It was about modernization, and part of it was about modernization of birth, and they were talking about forceps, and it was based. The book was based in sort of rural Norway, and the local midwife, uh, kept the forceps in a bag under her house, because she wasn't allowed them, but also she thought if people saw them, it would just terrify the shit out of them.
God, the mind boggles. Right, let's have. We're over time and we can't let it run too long. So I'm going to hammer through Rodica's letter. I'm going to try and make it the whole way through this time. Dear Andrew Culture and Dr. Sam in brackets, Dr. Patio Rage. He's really hanging on to that bit of it, isn't he?
Yeah, my wife my wife got rid of it after she laughed at it.
It's Rodica Broomhilda here. I forgot the voice. Sliding into your inbox with the grace of a cassette tape into its deck. I've just tuned into your latest Beat Motel episode, and oh boy, did it resonate with my eardrums like a perfectly distorted power chord. Andrew, your tale of domestic winemaking mayhem struck a chord with me, and it got me wondering, in the spirit of experimentation, do you also venture to eat chewits without peeling off the wrappers, or is that too anarchic even for your tastes? Imagine the time saved for more musical mischief. He's turning on me. I think Rodica's turning on me. I think his opinion of me has gone downhill. So chewits, that's an 80s reference. Like,
Yeah,
eating chewits with the wrappers on.
it's impressive that AI can do periodical references.
Okay, I'm going to move on. I don't think Rodica's going cold on me there. And Dr. Sam, your enlightening riffs on fusion bass lines tickled my fancy more than a rare vinyl bargain in a bargain bin. In your esteemed opinion, if jazz fusion had a rebellious offspring with punk, what might we call this genre-bending progeny?
Isn't it called Ian Jury and the Blockheads?
I was going to say Primus, surely. Exactly what Primus are.
I
Jazz
disagree,
fusion and punk.
but I can see where you're coming from.
Right, here we go. I must dash. The unripe plums I foolishly snacked on are staging a revolution in my belly, and I must heed their call. Oh God! Can you tell that I've tweaked the AI model slightly?
Right, plums.
I'm going to read that again. Oh my God, you ready? I'm going to read that again. Right, here goes. I must dash. The unripe plums I've foolishly snacked on are staging a revolution in my belly, and I must heed their call. Also, I'm penning this whilst under the tender mercies of my dentist. Quite a multitasking feat, don't you think? I think eating unripe plums whilst the dentist is working on you is.
I wonder if unripe plums. I wonder if he's gone a bit Catholic.
What's that Catholic thing? I need a wing now. Right. Anyway, keep the sonic wisdom flowing and let's continue to spread the gospel of the Beat Motel podcast to all the hungry ears out there. Musically yours, Rodica Broomhilda, who really needs to scoot to the loo now. P.S. Remember to give the show a shout out from me to your listeners. What the fuck does that mean? Remember to give the show a shout out from me to your listeners. Oh, hello, listeners. You're listening to Beat Motel from Rodica. I'd love for my circle of friends to join the Beat Motel fan caravan, and what better endorsement than from you chaps? Shall we get a caravan?
No, I don't like caravans. I'm not a camping fan.
I went banger racing at the weekend, which is about the sackiest thing any human being can do, but it's a proper laugh. I've seen caravan racing there a few times. Anyway, there's Rodica and his plums. There's one more.
It's unripe plums.
His unripe plums. Now, this is somebody else has sent a message in, and they've sent a selfie, which I'm now going to send through to you for you to describe. Sam, can you describe the selfie from this person?
Oh, Jesus. This is a very wrinkled old lady sitting on a dog listening
She's
to...
sitting on the dog?
Well, it looks like she's sitting on a dog.
Well, the dog doesn't look that bothered.
No, the spine is broken. It's dead. The dog is... old lady, lots of wrinkles, looks very angry. Maybe it's because she heard some nasty things.
Okay, so are you ready for this? I'm not sure how I'm going to do a voice for this. This is, dear... Yeah, I'm going to try it, okay? Dear Andrew Fuckwit Culture and that Dr. Sam fellow. Strong start, I think you'll agree.
Don't fuck.
I am Mrs. Broomhilda, Rodica's mother, and I am writing this email whilst in the middle of a living room that looks like it's been hit by a shit-firing tornado. Why? Because my son Rodica is too busy filling his head with your Beat Motel podcast nonsense instead of doing his chores. Dr. Sam, you might be a doctor of who knows what, but are you a doctor of getting grown man to pick up a turd broom?
Turd broom? Don't blame me because he's eating unripe plums.
Do you think that's a connection? Getting grown men to pick up a turd broom. Because that's the kind of... I swear, sorry, I've just got... My office here is actually in another building, and there's a canteen next to me, and I swear people must be able to hear me when I'm doing this, but I'll crack on. Grown men to pick up a turd broom, because that's the kind of miracle I need right now. I don't know what kind of bass lines you're talking about, but how about a bass line that gets my son's rear in gear? Right, we're seeing a pattern, we're seeing a story develop here, don't you think? All right. Oh, and Andrew... Oh, you should hear the things Rodica says about you. He thinks you're the bee's knees, he does. Well, I think that's changed. Well, here's what I think. You might be charming with your words and your so-called witty banter, but it's high time you use that charm to remind your listeners about their real responsibilities, like keeping their poor mothers from living in squalor. I swear, if I find one more dirty plate underneath Rodica's bed, I'm going to march him down to your studio and he can live with you and your burnt bollocking stories. He can live with you and your burnt bollocking stories.
I missed that story where you burnt your bollocks.
He's obsessed, I tell you. Obsessed. It's all Beat Motel this and Beat Motel that. Beat Motel won't dust the shelves or scrape the toilet seat clean of his crusty bits now, will it?
Depends how much you pay us.
Consider this a plea, a demand, or a curse. I don't care which. Get my son to stop his podcast pining and start his damn vacuuming. Yours furiously, Mrs. Broomhilda. P.S. Rodica, if you're reading this, the vacuum cleaner is in the cupboard, where it's always been. Use it, or I'm giving your headphones to the dog to eat and then shit out again. P.P.P.S. I enclose a selfie because I know that's what deviants like you live for. Oh, God, I've gone lightheaded doing that voice.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite the head voice.
That is. So, there you go. What do you make of that, Sam?
I like in the picture that her dress is going a bit brown.
Going brown?
Yeah, there's bits of brown. Looks like it's brown staining. I think that, yeah, it would be... What do I think of it? I mean, myself get where she's coming from. I don't understand why Rodica can do the chores while listening to this. What's wrong with him?
A lazy...
I can't sit down and listen to stuff with chat. I need to be doing something like walking or chores or something.
You mean that our listeners don't just sit in a completely white, featureless room, staring at the wall, listening to the podcast?
I think actually that might be a reason why they would listen to us, and or like the American army has experimented with music as a torture mechanism.
I heard your riff of the week. I get that. Right, we got to go. I've saved one clip, and I've just realised why I couldn't fit one of mine in. I've saved one clip as possibly one of the shittest versions of. It's not actually a bridge, but it is someone using the bridge. So I'm going to play this, and then we'll say goodbye.
Excuse me, oh, will you excuse me? I'm just trying to find the bridge. Has anybody seen the bridge? Please.
Have you seen the bridge?
I ain't seen the bridge.
Where's that confounded bridge?
What is that?
What, you don't know it?
Oh,
It's Led Zeppelin.
really? I
Yeah.
thought that was going to be like some piss taking. That's serious.
It's serious. It's the Crunk by Led Zeppelin, and it's off. It's Hours of the Holy. Actually, it's only oh no, this might be Songs Remains the Same. But when I can remember getting into Led Zeppelin and then hearing that and just going, "What the fuck is this?" It's nearly
That
as
is
bad.
the most mind blowing. I've never really listened to Led Zeppelin. I don't know. It just never clicked. But that is one of the most mind blowing moments so far on this for me, because that sounds like people taking the piss out of James Brown in about the late 90s to me.
Oh no, that's if it's the album, I think it is. It's 70 or 71. But
That's mind blowing.
It is the same album that's got them trying to do reggae on it.
Oh yeah, Higher Dyer, something like that. Hair Maker.
It's Jamaica, but it's
Jamaica.
spelled D-Y. But yeah, that's the Crunk, and I think that's enough.
Ah,
Right, I'm going to say goodbye. Do you want to say goodbye?
my wife went on holiday the other day. Jamaica. No, she went of her own accord.
Yeah, but do you want to say goodbye? Oh, you need to subscribe to this. Fuck's sake, come on, people. Don't pull your finger out. Right, that's me saying goodbye. Do you want to say goodbye?